Okay, do you recall how I said that the telencephalon kind of mushroomed over everything? It's almost to me like a mushroom. Here's that telen, that cerebrum, and it kind of mushroomed over everything. So it's really kind of like a mushroom. Okay, so you got this mushroom, and then you got the stalk of the mushroom. See that big mushroom head? Then you got the stalk. Assume the stalk is the brainstem. So see that brainstem, so this would be all of that prosencephalon. The prosencephalon, remember, was separating this and this. That's all of that. Then I get to the stalk, the brainstem, which starts at the midbrain, up in here. Okay. So when we look at that, the brainstem consists of three regions: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. The midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. Okay, that's that brain stem. Controls automatic behaviors necessary for survival. Provides, so when somebody says brain stem function, that's lower level function. Breathing and heartbeat and stuff like that there. Provides pathways for tracks between higher and lower brain centers to the cortex and associated with some cranial nerves. We'll deal with that later. So here is the brain stem there. That's the brain stem right there. Okay. And pyramids and so forth. That midbrain, located between the diencephalon and the pons. Okay, diencephalon and the pons. Cerebral peduncles, two bulging structures. Cerebral peduncles, two bulging structures that you'll see. Okay, that things kind of sit on. See these peduncles? These peduncles there, they kind of sits on. Two bulging structures that contain descending pyramidal tracts. Okay, let's go over here. The peduncles. Here we are, these peduncles. Okay. And they have these tracks that go through them. Here are these cerebral peduncles, and they got these tracks. So that would be it there, right there. Okay, so see right here, remember I was showing you this right there? See, because right here's the pons. That's the pons. So right there would be those peduncles you're sitting on, right there. Okay, these are the mammillary bodies right there. Okay, which would be these things right here. All right, so located between that, here's a cross section of that showing this cerebral peduncles right there. See, that's cutting right here. Okay, here's the red nucleus. Remember the rubrospinal tract? Here's the cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct was between the third ventricle and the fourth ventricle. Here the superior and inferior colliculi right there. Superior and inferior colliculi. Superior colliculi help your visual eye field follow a moving object. Inferior, so in other words, if you hear, okay, let's put it like this: cars moving, you follow it with your eyes. Remember that helps. The front eye field helps too. The front eye field controls the eye muscles, but the superior colliculi actually gives the fact to follow it. And then an inferior colliculi does. If you hear a sound, you follow the sound. It's down a little further down. Okay, midbrain nuclei that control certain cranial nerves. The corpora quadrigemini are those, that's the superior visual reflex, superior colliculi I talked about. And then inferior for the auditory, following an auditory sound, like an ambulance moving, and you say, I think it's going that way, but you really can't see it. Substantia nigra, dopamine is produced there. A lot of dopamine is produced there. Red nucleus, largest nucleus, reticular relay nuclei from descending motor pathways. That's what we call the rubrospinal tract. Those were extrapyramidal. Remember I was talking about, when we go back to your other video on the extrapyramidal tracts. So here's that there. Okay. Now we're into the pons. The pons right here, which is called the bridge, it has, when we get into ANP2, I'm going to say nuclei in that help control blood vessel diameter, vasodilation, vasoconstriction, breathing, which is real important there, breathing centers, and even the cardiac center. The cardiac center helps with heart action. Okay. So the pons bulge and brainstem region between midbrain medulla forms part of the anterior wall fourth ventricle. Fibers of connect high brain centers, and it also connects and sends fibers to the cerebellum right there. That area right there. So it sends areas to the cerebellum. Cerebellum helps coordinate balance and other things. That's your pons. Okay. That's part of the brainstem. So see, we've gone from up here, cerebral peduncles, to the pons. Moving down now. And here's some cranial nerves. But I'm going to talk about the cranial nerves later in another video. Then we get to the medulla oblongata, oblong area. Most inferior part of the brain, along with the pons, forms the ventral wall, contains choroid plexus of the fourth ventricle. Remember, the choroid plexus is where you develop some of the cerebrospinal fluid. Has the pyramids. Two lines formed by corticospinal tracts. See, we had pyramidal fibers, and they go in through the pyramids, these two things here. Okay. Decussation of the pyramids, that's where you have a crossover of some of the corticospinal fibers at the decussation of the pyramids. So there we are. Medulla oblongata, just looking at it. We don't have to get real detailed. I'm not going to make this test real. I'm just kind of giving you an idea on how this works. And then we have some cranial nerves that come from there. We'll talk about the vestibular nuclei. That helps control equilibrium, and it also the cerebellum also helps with that. Okay. Remember I mentioned that the pons helps with heart, but also the medulla helps with heart action. Medulla breathing. So the pons has part of the breathing center. The pons has part of the cardiovascular center. So these two areas, the pons and the medulla, do a lot of similar stuff and work together. And you'll see a lot of that when I'm going to be bringing this back up when we do ANP2. That's where we'll actually get into the heart and everything there. Okay. So now that brings us to the cerebellum, which we'll do another video on.